What's going on, guys? It's Jimmy here, and welcome to our daily show where we discuss the fourth stimulus check update, what's going on in the United States, Washington, D.C., money, investing, and the massive $3.5 trillion stimulus package that the U.S. House of Representatives is in the process of putting the bill together, drafting the bill, and will be voting on the bill here within the next few days. They're in the final stages of this 3.5 massive stimulus package, which will be the largest stimulus package yet to date. We'll actually be hearing from the White House on this package, as well as what the closed-door meeting with Senator Joe Manchin between President Biden and Joe Manchin had to say. And there's actually some interesting news there that is actually some pretty unexpected news between what happened between them. We got a lot to discuss here in this video, as well as what is going on in our country. If you're new to the channel, make sure to subscribe down below. It's completely free to do so. I will keep you up to date with what is going on in our country, as well as with this next stimulus package. Remember, new videos come out here every day at 10 a.m., 3 p.m., and 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you find these videos helpful, don't forget to hit the like button for us down below, and let's jump right in. There was a march on Washington, D.C. today that had low turnout and a low drama mark rally for jailed pro-Trump rioters that were there in support of rioters from the January 6th events that happened on January 6th. Law enforcement was prepped for the large crowds that did not materialize as multiple different Republican groups warned people not to go to this rally today, and the crowds were a lot smaller than anticipated, and we did not see much drama here today, and I believe it is still ongoing, so hopefully we do not have anything happen that, we don't have any drama that could cause anything unexpected. So luckily, it's not a repeat of what happened on January 6th, so thankfully nobody was hurt or anything along those lines. We are getting reports of a lot of parents, thousands, maybe even to the tune of millions of parents that are not receiving their most recent child tax credit payment from September. Quote, "We need this money." Parents report problems receiving their September child tax credit payment. I have personally seen hundreds, if not thousands of parents down below in the comments of my recent videos that said they did not receive their monthly child tax credit payment. These are the monthly payments that go out every month around the 15th of the month for $250 per month for children ages 6 through 17 and $300 per month for children under the age of 6. The IRS said it distributed the third advanced child tax credit payment this week with no major hiccups, but more than 200 parents contacted CNBC Make It on Friday to say they haven't yet received a third direct deposit, despite getting the first two with no problems. The third child tax credit payment was scheduled for Wednesday, and many households reported receiving their deposits. But 2 days later, screenshots of the IRS's child tax credit update portal reviewed by CNBC's Make It shows that many other parents have not yet received their deposit and that payments have not yet even been processed. Katrina Smith, 39, had no problems receiving July and August payments of $750, which covers her 3 children at $250 for each child. But she said she has not gotten her September payment yet, despite the IRS portal saying she is eligible. Quote, "Many of us are depending on this money because we're still behind due to being out of work from this pandemic, or just because that money is ours," she says, who lives in North Carolina. "If we agreed to receive the payments, we should be receiving them, at least given honest information if there is a problem." CNBC reached out earlier this week to the IRS about reported payment delays, and an agency spokesman said, quote, "There was no indication of widespread issues with September's payments." Friday evening, the agency said it was aware that some people who have received July and August payments have not gotten their September credit yet. Quote, the IRS is currently looking into this situation and we will share more information as soon as possible, the agency said in a statement. Parents who have called the IRS have received different responses, ranging from being told they will get the deposits in 5 days to hearing that they will not get one this month at all and instead will receive larger catch-up payments the next 3 months. Still, others were told that they would get the payment when they file their 2021 taxes. Yeah, figure that one out. Note that this is not the first issue with the advance payments. In August, about 15% of payments were meant to be direct deposited into bank accounts were sent as paper checks due to a technical error and delayed families from receiving them. 15% of payments is like 10 million families. Just to keep in mind. So just keep in mind the IRS has not given us any statements yet, but there is some type of problem because I have personally seen your comments down below in the comment section that says you have not received your September payment. And it is late because it's the 18th and your direct deposit was supposed to be on the 15th. So, and note that last month there was about 10 million people that were on direct deposit that got a paper check for some odd reason because, well, it's the IRS. Also note that there are literally people, millions of people still waiting on their IRS tax returns. Yeah, and it's September. Yeah, so there is millions of people. At one point, the IRS has not given us an updated number, but at one point there was over 30 million people waiting on their IRS tax return refunds. 30 million people. We don't have an updated number, but I don't know. It could be 20 million. It could be 25 million. It could be more than 30 million people at this point. So we don't have an updated number. But yeah, it's in September, there's still tens of millions of people waiting on their IRS tax returns. That's how delayed they are. So at this point, child tax credits at any given month could be messed up as well. And at any given month, even if you're on direct deposits, just be aware that you could get a paper check in the mail too. Also be aware that there's scams with, down below in the comments section too. If you see me in the comments saying text you, it's a scam. It's a fake account. I'll always have a check mark by my name. So, and if you ever see me in the comments saying text me or contact me on WhatsApp or anything, just know that's a scam. It's not even me. It's just a fake account. Also know there's scams for child tax credits and stimulus checks and everywhere. There's just scams everywhere. Just be very careful with all that stuff. But do be aware that if you are on direct deposit, you could actually receive your child tax credits in the mail via paper check. That's a real thing. And please comment down below if you got a paper check in the mail last month when you were supposed to get a direct deposit, just so everybody kind of knows it's real. Also, please comment down below if you got your child tax credit check this month, or if you didn't receive it this month. It'll kind of help our viewers just feel a little more comfortable with this whole situation. I will keep you updated on this situation when the IRS gives us more information on this, okay? So, yeah, just be aware that you're not alone, and there's probably millions of people that are dealing with this exact same situation. Okay, next up, let's hear from White House Economic Council Director Brian Deese on the next stimulus package and some details on the closed-door meeting between President Biden and Senator Joe Manchin. And apparently, it didn't go that well. And you'll hear him kind of try to downplay it, but here's some details. Check this out.
The White House is pushing forward now on the president's signature spending plan, but the road to passing the reconciliation bill in the Senate just got more rough. Axios reporting President Biden's one-on-one meeting with moderate Democrat Senator Joe Manchin this week did not result in a deal on the spending bill. Instead, the West Virginia senator doubled down on his refusal to back the $3.5 trillion price tag. Joining us now, White House Director of the National Economic Council, Brian Deese. Brian, good morning. It's good to see you. So what does this mean for the future of this massive spending package? Obviously, you need Joe Manchin, you need Kirsten Sinema. You need all of them because of the 50-50 split in the Senate. But if Joe Manchin says, I'm not moving on this, where does that leave you guys?
Well, look, I appreciate the role that headline writers have in trying to write those types of headlines. But the truth is we're making progress. We continue to make progress. Senator
What does that
Manchin,
mean? He said he's not going to support the bill. If you don't have him, you don't have a bill.
Well, I'm not going to get into private negotiations. We never do. Private discussions the president is having. But I can tell you that we are making progress on this. We have a lot of issues to work through, but we're working through them. And everybody is focused on the idea that we have to get something done here. We have to get something done here for the country. So we're going to keep that process going. You know, if we tallied up all of the times in which this Build Back Better agenda that President Biden has put forward was declared dead in the public and in the press, then we would have a long, long list. We continue to keep our head down, keep moving, and we are making progress here.
So what does that look like, Brian, then? If it's maybe it won't be $3.5 trillion, maybe it's $1 trillion or $2 trillion. Are you open to giving a little bit to Joe Manchin, and maybe this won't end up being a $3.5 trillion package?
Well, we're going to keep those negotiations among the members of Congress. But what I would say is I think you heard from the president pretty clearly yesterday. The president is and has been open to compromise throughout this process. You saw that in the context of the infrastructure bill that he negotiated. What he's not willing to compromise on is the urgency of moving to address deep structural challenges we have in our economy that have put working class families at a structural disadvantage. And so he's focused on how we can make real progress there. And look, you know, there are different moving parts, and this is the legislative process. The House committees marked up a set of bills over the course of the last couple of weeks. Now the House comes together, thinks about how to stitch that together, and then that'll go to the Senate. That's the process, and we're right in the middle of it right now.
Hey, Brian, it's Sam Stein with Politico. I want to switch gears a little bit, but it's something that could be tucked into this bill, which is the debt ceiling. Mitch McConnell has said repeatedly he's not going to provide a single Republican vote for the debt ceiling. I know you guys think it's hypocritical. It is. But the reality is you're going to need all 50 Democratic senators to raise the debt ceiling. Do you have a preferred avenue to do this? Is it going to be in the government funding bill? And do you think you are going to need to, think outside the box potentially? Because that vehicle requires 60 votes.
So we're confident that this is going to get done. It's absolutely unspeakable and unthinkable that we would allow the federal government to default on the obligations that it has already made. I'd say two things. The first is it's important we go back in very recent history. This month, 4 years ago, September 2017, you had a president controlling both parties of Congress, and they came together, passed a bipartisan short-term funding bill that included disaster relief and a short-term extension of the debt limit. Democrats, right at that moment, were fighting the signature legislation of that president. That was when Donald Trump was pushing his tax cut bill through reconciliation. And yet Democrats came together because it's their responsibility to put votes on the debt ceiling. We have seen this done in a bipartisan way consistently. And the best way to do this is without a lot of drama, without a lot of self-inflicted harm to the economy and to our country. And that's what we're going to do. There's a lot of posturing on this issue, but we're confident at the end of the day we'll get this done.
Brian, it's Katty Kay here. Can I push you a little bit more on Senator Manchin? I mean, he clearly came out of that meeting and he has said that he's not going to support $3.5 trillion. Can you give us more detail on where you are? You say you're making progress, but where is the progress? Because without him, you don't have the deal, you don't have the bill. What are you prepared to give him at least some parameters of the discussion that's taking place to get to somewhere where you can have an agreement with him?
Well, let me make a couple of points. The first is on your question about progress. We saw extraordinary progress in the House over just the last couple of days. The House Ways and Means Committee reported out a package of tax reforms and tax increases that would make good on the president's promise, not only to restore some tax fairness in this country, but also generate revenue to invest in important programs. It wasn't everything that the president proposed. There are members with large ideological differences across that committee, and they're able to come together and work on a package there. And, the question about where this goes forward, a lot of the focus needs to shift and is shifting in these conversations away from this top line. The idea of $3.5 trillion in spending is in and of itself wrong. There's never been a bill that has been $3.5 trillion in spending. This is about tax cuts. This is about investments in the country. And most importantly, everything we're talking about is going to be fully paid for. You know, traditionally, when we talk about pieces of legislation, you talk about the net cost of those pieces of legislation. That certainly was true with respect to the Trump tax cut. Even as you all were talking about the Trump tax cut, you were talking about $1.5–2 trillion. You didn't talk about the fact that that's $6 trillion in gross tax cuts. What we should be focused here on is what is this bill going to accomplish for the economy and what's the net cost going to be? And we're confident at the end of the day, the net cost is going to be zero.
Yeah, so as you can see here, there's a lot going on. Again, the White House reiterates that at the end of the day, this $3.5 trillion package, the net cost is going to be zero. The package is going to be fully paid for. There are some Democratic senators that are demanding that the package be fully paid for, and the Congressional Budget Office will score the package and will do the math and make sure that it's fully paid for. There are some Democratic senators that are going to demand that it be fully paid for, or else they won't vote for it. So, which is very, very different than the last three stimulus packages that weren't paid for at all. Literally, you know, two from former President Trump, one from Biden, both sides there, Republican and Democrat. Those all just went to the national deficit. The three stimulus checks and the child tax credits, the mortgage assistance, the rental assistance, the SNAP increases, everything in there. And the 2017 Trump tax cuts, there were no tax raises in there or anything. That was not paid for. So all that stuff just went to the national deficit, okay? But they're demanding this be fully paid for, as well as the physical infrastructure package, which is by Republicans and Democrats. So very, very different political landscape right now. So they're demanding this next stimulus package be fully paid for, which the White House continues to reiterate that it is fully paid for, so it should not affect inflation at all, because again, it's fully paid for. So raises on corporations that make over $5 million, raises on wealthy individuals that make over $400,000, $1 million, and also forcing pharmaceutical companies to lower prescription drug prices. That's going to be $600 to $700 billion of the plan. That is going forward. What happened is there was an initial vote on a subcommittee level that failed. It was a tie vote because 3 Democrats voted no. And what the Democrats did is they took it out of that subcommittee. Get this, they took it out of that subcommittee and moved it to a different subcommittee, and it passed in that subcommittee. But what's going to happen is they just passed the buck there. But they're going to have to eventually get the final vote, right? So remember, in the House, they can only afford 3 votes to vote no on the final vote. So what they're going to have to do, and this is why I've always said that the biggest thing here is even not necessarily the price tag. It is for Joe Manchin. The price tag matters the most, which is kind of an odd thing. I mean, I can understand why the price tag matters. I get it, but it's fully paid for. So that really should be the more thing that matters the most, because if it's paid for, if you're bringing in revenue to pay for the package, that kind of matters more, I would think. But what should matter more is what's in the package, and that is where the negotiation comes in. And remember, we had 3 Democrats alone on the subcommittee level, which was only 28 Democrats, because the vote ended up being 25 to 25. We had 22 Republicans and 3 Democrats vote no, and the subcommittee vote ended up being 25 to 25. It didn't pass. It was a tie vote just on the subcommittee level. Now, remember, the subcommittee is just like it's one section of the House, okay? There's 13 different subcommittees. Now, what happens is all the subcommittees make up the House, and they're going to all put the bill together, and they're going to release the final package of the bill, I assume, this week, and vote on it, I assume, this week as well, because the physical infrastructure package is going to be voted on not this Monday, but next Monday, okay, the 27th. And the plan is that they need to vote on this before then. the stimulus package. Everybody wants to have the stimulus package voted before then. So we have a very, very interesting week. And also that they want to have not only that, but they want to have the debt ceiling raised, or else the government will run out of money by October and default. And the government shuts down if they don't come to a government shutdown agreement by the end of the month, September 30th. Yeah. So, and meanwhile, Mitch McConnell, as you just seen there, continues to reiterate that the Republicans are not going to agree to raise the debt ceiling and are going to force the Democrats to do this on their own. Even the Politico reporter there says that's a very hypocritical move because the Republicans raised the debt ceiling 3 times. Republicans and Democrats raised the debt ceiling 3 times during former President Donald Trump's presidency. You have to raise the debt ceiling every couple years, every year to 2, because the government always spends more money than they make. Not always, but it's just how the government works. So Janet Yellen says that the government will run out of money in October, and then government defaults. So it's going to be very interesting to see what is going to happen, because the Republicans are saying no, they're not going to vote to raise the debt ceiling, and they're going to force the Democrats to raise it on their own through the stimulus package. That could be done, but the Democrats are saying that they're not going to put it in the stimulus package. That's not how it's going to be done. It could be done that way, but then they have to include it in the stimulus package, which means they have to actually pass the stimulus package. And we have Joe Manchin kind of threatening that, and all the other Democrats threatening that as well. So all the Democrats have to come on board and pass the stimulus package in time to do that, which we're going to find out this week as well. So we have a very lot going on, which is literally going to be a very jam-packed, action-filled week this week, because this week will be very, very eventful, because they're going to try to pass the stimulus package this week in the House, because if they don't pass it this week in the House of Representatives, by next Monday, not this upcoming Monday, but next Monday, on the 27th, is the vote of the House of Representatives. So the vote in the House for the physical infrastructure package. And that is a set date because Nancy Pelosi promised that to the other Democrats, the moderate Democrats. So if they don't get that done, then they have a bit of a problem, because then that vote will come and go, and then they no longer kind of have that as leverage to pass both packages kind of as the same time, because once they pass that package, it's done and gone. Yeah, so we have a lot going on here, and we have a government shutdown coming in 12 days. And remember, a government shutdown is different. That's the annual budget of the government. That's different than raising the debt ceiling of the government, okay? The debt ceiling, the Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen says that the government's going to run out of money sometime in October, okay? They need to do that ASAP, as soon as possible. We just don't know when the government's going to run out, sometime in October. But that could come sooner or later. We don't know an exact date, and really it needs to be done as soon as possible. So they're going to try to do that this week. It'll be very, very interesting to see if they hold a vote on this and we actually get Republicans that vote no to not raise the debt ceiling, even though this is something they need to do every 1 to 2 years and has been done for many, many, many years. Remember, they raised the debt ceiling 3 times in 4 years during former President Donald Trump's presidency, because it's just something that has to be done. It basically allows the U.S. government to issue new debt, treasury securities, and to borrow money and to be able to issue money. So it would be like a bank. In this case, you could kind of think of it as the Bank of the United States, not being able to borrow or issue money. A bank cannot function without being able to borrow or issue money. You could think of the United States as one big bank. A bank cannot function without being able to borrow or issue or even pay its own debt. So if you can't pay, it'd be like saying, I know that we have debt, $28 trillion we have of debt. Imagine not being able to pay your own debt. In this case, Congress has to just agree to be able to pay its own debt, its own past debt. We're just talking about past debt. We have $28 trillion of past debt from all the past years. In fact, former President Donald Trump added $8 trillion to the debt in just the past 4 years. $3.3 trillion of it was from the first two stimulus packages, okay? In all fairness, that's from the pandemic, okay? And I'm not picking sides or anything. You can look this up. This is just facts. In fact, here's an article because I like to show my my stuff here on the screen so everybody kind of believes me here. Trump's legacy, $8 trillion added to the debt in one term. And I believe this is the most from any president. But if we didn't have the pandemic, we could subtract initially right out the gate $3.3 trillion just from the first two stimulus packages. Remember, the first stimulus package was $2.3 trillion, the CARES Act, and the second stimulus package was almost $1 trillion. So in all fairness, that's $3.3 trillion you could subtract right out the gate. So that would be like, what was it? That'd be a little bit less than $5 trillion, okay? Still a lot of money, right? But they raised the debt ceiling 3 times in 4 years. Why? Because you have to. The government just spends more money than they make almost every single year. There's been a few years where the government didn't spend more money than they make, but it has not happened in a long time. It has not happened in a long time. And in all fairness, Biden is not on track to spend less. We'll have to see, right? But Biden spent $1.9 trillion just in the third stimulus check package alone. You could just round to $2 trillion. That third stimulus check package was not paid for either. So in all fairness, we'll have to see. Biden could spend more than Trump. And I'm not on either side. I don't consider myself a Republican or a Democrat. They're both spending out of control. But remember, this next stimulus package, this $3.5 trillion stimulus package, and this next infrastructure package, this $1.2 trillion infrastructure package, which has support from Republicans and Democrats, are both fully paid for. They're both fully paid for. They do not add to the national deficit. You got to be very clear on that. They do not add to the national deficit. So when they pass both these packages, the physical infrastructure package and the stimulus package, they do not add to the deficit. Okay, that's what everybody's saying here. The Republicans for the physical infrastructure package and the now in all fairness, the physical infrastructure package was like 90-some% paid for. But even the Republicans, there was a Republican senator that came on the show through an interview and said, well, yeah, it's like 90-some% paid for. But in all fairness, we're using other stimulus money through like the unused unemployment money that the Republican states opted out of. And we're using some of that money. There's billions of dollars there. And we're using that money. The Congressional Budget Office isn't giving us credit for it. But if you use that unused stimulus money, that takes us to 100%. Any reasonable person would give us credit for that. If you use that, it takes us to 100%. So you got to kind of use all that in consideration. That was a Republican senator, and they're supposed to be the more fiscally conscious ones right now. But again, that's picking sides. But like I said, we got a lot going on here, and this next week is going to be a very pivotal week on what's going to go on with this next stimulus package, possibly passing it in the House. If not, then the physical infrastructure package is going to be voted on in the next Monday, and then that is going to be very controversial with the Democrats on if they're going to pass the physical infrastructure package before the stimulus package. They're not going to like that at all unless they pass them both in the same day, which is a possibility. Also, the debt ceiling and the government shutdown all happening here within the government shutdown we're going to see a government shutdown within the next 12 days. And they have to come to agreements on a lot of the stuff with the Republicans or without the Republicans. And I will keep you up to date on all this stuff. So make sure to subscribe down below. It's completely free to do so. New videos come out here every day at 10 a.m., 3 p.m., and 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Yeah, there's a lot going on. You can click here to watch my newest stimulus check video next. And this video is about how they're trying to add $1,400 stimulus checks into this next stimulus package. So click on one of those videos next. Thanks, guys, and I will see you in the next video.